Dear friends, welcome to the Wednesday Word on Wednesday the 15th of June. On Sunday I was preaching at St Luke's on one of the most obscure passages I've ever preached on, Daniel chapter 10. But I found in it a great encouragement to prayer. It's set in 537 BC. Daniel is in his mid-80s, having been in exile in Babylon for 70 years. But now his greatest dream has come true. Cyrus, the Persian emperor, who rules Babylon, has allowed some of the Jewish exiles to return to the city of Jerusalem. But the dream quickly became a nightmare. They returned to a ruined city, think of Mariupol, and especially a ruined temple. They began the work of rebuilding, but it was slow and hard work, and the temple they constructed was a shadow of Solomon's great temple. And there was opposition to the rebuilding from the surrounding nations and disunity amongst the people. And the work, which was expected to take a year and a half, was still grinding on after 2.5 years. So in Daniel chapter 10, we find Daniel in despair at the state of his beloved nation. At that time, I, Daniel, mourned for 3 weeks. I ate no choice food, no meat or wine touched my lips, and I used no lotions at all until the 3 weeks were over. Verses 2-3. But he turns his despair and fear into prayer, and that's the very best thing to do with despair and fear. And in response, God sends an angel to strengthen him. Well, so far so good. The more complex part of the chapter comes in verse 13. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me for 21 days, says the angel. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, because I was detained there with the king of Persia. What is going on here? Well, the princes are heavenly powers. Beyond this world, there is an eternal world of angels and demons, spiritual forces of good and evil, and they're in conflict with each other. The prince of the Persian kingdom is an evil spirit opposed to God, his angels, and his people. Michael, however, is one of the angels, and he comes to strengthen the angel who appears to Daniel in his battle against the evil prince of Persia. Because behind the return of God's people to Jerusalem, their struggles and the opposition to the rebuilding, there are unseen spiritual forces at work. Paul says as much in his letter to the Ephesians. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Now, we who have grown up in a culture of scientific rationalism tend to ignore or dismiss this battle and think that the struggles between the nations and the struggles that the church is facing are just human struggles. But if we think like that, we are missing a vitally important dimension to the world and church history. There really is a spiritual battle that is going on in the heavenly realms behind all the earthly struggles that terrify us today. Why do you think Putin is behaving with such crazed wickedness? Why is there such hostility to Christianity in our culture today? Why are some people so enmeshed in the drug culture or numerous other addictions you might like to name? Well, it's because of the rulers, the authorities, the powers in this dark world and the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Now, I don't know if there's a prince of Russia. There may well be. And if there is, the angels are fighting against him in the heavenlies. But here's the thing. We can join this battle with our prayers, and we will be personally strengthened and encouraged as we do so. Do not be afraid, Daniel, says the angel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. Well, I can't promise you'll be visited by an angel, although I do know some people who claim to have been, but God will respond to your prayers. The battles in the heavenlies are won by the prayers of the saints on earth and will affect what goes on earth. So as we pray, we are playing our part against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. God bless you today.